Welcome to another episode of the CPG Guys podcast. Our co-hosts, Sri Rajagopalan and Peter V.S. Bond, explore how brands and retailers engage with consumers online, in-store, and everywhere in between. And now, here are Sri and Peter.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to this episode of the CPG Guys podcast. I'm Sri, one of the aforementioned CPG guys, and my co-host week after week is, of course, Peter, also the VP of Partner Strategy and Dev at Fetch Rewards, a mobile loyalty platform. He's unable to join me today, so joining in his place, I welcome one of our friends and one of our Fresh 4 co-hosts on Sundays, the president of Pacvue, a leading e-commerce SaaS platform that empowers agencies, brands, and sellers to optimize their advertising. You'll actually see her at many industry webinars and even on Bloomberg TV during earnings releases. Bloomberg TV, welcome, Miss Bloomberg TV, Melisssa Burdick. How are you?
It's good. It's coming up. Amazon earnings are end of this month.
I can't wait to see those and see you on Bloomberg TV speaking about Amazon earnings. I know at the time we recorded this episode, Melissa and I will also be together at Ab Week, which is shortly away. So can't wait to break bread with you there as well. But before we get to our guests, let me remind our audience that all of our content may be found by visiting cpgguys.com. That easy. And if you aren't already following us on LinkedIn, all you got to do is go to the search bar on top, type CPG Guys. A blue plus follow button will be there. Click it, and just that way, you can be part of this growing audience and family, influence who we bring on the show, the topics we talk about. Best of all, there's no charge to do this. Join us and shape the future of the CPG industry. And today we're back at it with data and analytics. What I would call is Peter's home turf and domain. Data, of course, is becoming one of the most valuable, if not already, commodities in the CPG industry. But when it's converted to actionable insights, it is a game changer for brand equity and retail growth. We've had others on the show in earlier episodes talk about the role of data, the future of insights, and how they'll be shaped by scale and speed. So here we decided we will do a two-part series with Cardlytics, whose vision is to transform marketing with purchase intelligence. They use insights from credit card and banking transactions to help marketers identify, reach, and influence likely buyers at scale, as well as measure the true sales impact of marketing campaigns. To me, it's targeted marketing personalization at its absolute best. Joining Melissa and me today on the show is the president of advertising at Cardlytics, a remarkable career background, having held positions as co-founder and chief revenue officers, connected and CRO at MediaMath prior to joining Cardlytics. Join us in welcoming to the podcast, Ross McNab. Ross, how are you?
Hi, thanks very much for having me.
Before we jump into questions and get to understand everything Cardlytics does, could you give us a brief intro of Cardlytics, where our multitasking audience can learn more about Cardlytics solutions, and then what do you personally do at Cardlytics?
Sure thing. Listen, if you haven't heard of Cardlytics, chances are you've actually probably utilized our services in some way, perhaps without knowing it. If you happen to bank with Chase, Bank of America, or Wells Fargo, like one in every two Americans, you'll likely have been exposed to our solution, which is if you've noticed the offers that are made available in your banking app or on the bank website on your credit or debit card, that's powered by us. We operate that on behalf of those three banks, plus many, many more in the US, reaching in any given month about 160 million Americans. My role as part of that business, I'm the president North America for the advertising side of our business. I guess that's a pretty good title for somebody with my accent. Some would say my skill set, but certainly for somebody who can't even vote yet.
Thank you for that, Ross. And of course, needless to say, as week over week, we'll include hyperlinks to the site addresses you mentioned, as well as Ross's own LinkedIn profile and any details on Cardlytics. So our listeners, if you want to reach out, you can do that by simply going to those liner notes. So I'm going to jump into our discussion right here and ask you the first question, which is very straightforward, Ross. Why don't you share your journey through programmatic advertising, given that it's your background, and what lessons you've drawn from that to guide how you approach advertising for Cardlytics?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to walk down memory lane. So my programmatic journey, if you will, started before it was even known as programmatic. We were trying to come up with a name for it at the time. I think we called it RTB, real-time bidding. And it was in my first stint in the US with a business back then known as iBlaster, became MediaMind, became Seismic, and is now part of the Amazon overall business. And I had the good fortune of pioneering our RTB offering at that time. Got to meet an amazing group of people, be at the forefront and start of what has now become the dominant way that digital media is bought and sold. And took that early experience and the meeting of many, many different businesses in the ecosystem and recognized there was an opportunity to help these businesses expand into international markets, and specifically into Australia and then up into the broader Asia Pacific region. So grabbed that opportunity with a couple of co-founders, and we launched Connected in 2012 back in Sydney, Australia. I moved back there. Great time. We were able to tap into a latent market, a lot of latent demand there, looking for these types of solutions, mapped to these businesses trying to get into those markets. It was a pretty low risk, high return option for them. And turns out for us too, as founders, the business generated some great success very quickly. So much so that we actually were spun the business out, and we were most of the business was acquired by MediaMath, one of the founding DSPs, demand side platforms in the programmatic space. As part of that acquisition, myself, one of my co-founders, and a number of our team joined MediaMath. And we, as part of that, I returned to the US to be MediaMath's president for the US. Great few years growing that business, getting to see the programmatic space mature before the Cardlytics opportunity presented itself 2 years ago. It's almost 2 years exactly to my anniversary joining there. The similarities are strong. The promise of programmatic was really built around the reduction of waste, if you will, and the reduction of waste in pursuit of improving performance. The old adage, I don't know, 50% of my advertising's working, don't know which 50%, and programmatic's promise was to try and help answer that. And you can see a lot of that, frankly, with the Cardlytics proposition too, because of the depth of the targeting that is available, the fact that it is built on that incredible purchase intelligence asset that we are honored to represent from our banking partners. Turns out when you're trying to predict future performance or future actions, future consumer behavior, one of the greatest predictors is what they've done before. And so looking at where they've purchased, when they purchased, how much was purchased, gives us amazing insight into consumer behavior, helps marketers then reach those consumers in brand safe, fraud-free environments, back in the banking environments, and really drive incremental return on their marketing investment, which really in the promise of digital advertising is the promise of return, right? The promise of programmatic was the promise of return, quantifiable return at a higher rate than you've ever been able to do that before. So it's really pleasing to be able to be part of a business that can really stand up, deliver that, and prove it out too.
All right. So in terms of reputation and perceived value in advertising, these are as important as ever. In your opinion, how has this subsequently impacted the way in which senior leaders think about the role or value of the marketing and advertising plays in the broader business strategy, and how has that changed?
Yeah, I think it's been a continuous evolution for a long time now for marketing teams to be able to stand up the contribution they make to a business. Everything from the CMO being able to stand up and be a true proven part of the C-suite all the way through their organization, such that when they go and ask for marketing budgets for increased investments, they're able to go with really clear business cases that say, I know when you give me $1, I'm going to be able to return $1X. And so incredibly important then that they find that the ecosystem around them and the broader marketing industry evolves to help them achieve exactly that need. The reputation piece, it's not zero sum, right? You have to produce return from a straight business results, a sales perspective, if you will, and you have to do it whilst also being an incredibly strong steward for your brand. One can't come at the expense of the other. So whilst I think that is, an ongoing battle, if you will, or challenge, it's, I think, increasingly great to see the industry understanding the needs of those marketers on that basis and developing solutions that help fit the bill there.
We're going to jump into a little bit of details on Cardlytics over here. Credit card data, consumer data, you're not the first, clearly. But what differentiates you? Like, why would a brand go to Cardlytics to partner on advertising? What's the edge here? And what are we telling brands today about why they should work with you?
Yeah, listen, Cardlytics' superpower is our ability to influence consumer behavior. That really is the headline. And let me unpack that a little bit. So again, off of that amazing purchase intelligence asset that we have the ability to work with from those relationships with the banks, where we see 1 in every 2 card swipes, not just credit, but also debit, ACH as well. We see the transactions that come through. And please, let's take a moment to acknowledge the amazing business that's been built in being extremely privacy and user and consumer privacy compliant to be able to be the right stewards of that type of data on behalf of our banks, all non-PII, anonymized, and so on. Even so, just the ability to safeguard that and to be a trusted partner on that level is, absolute kudos to all those that have come before me in the business to build up that credibility. But it's that ability to see what the people have purchased before, the ability to then help give the marketer an insight that they don't have for themselves. So many marketers these days, they've got really smart, sophisticated CRM programs for themselves. They know it more than ever about their customers that they have. Where their blind spot is, they don't know what those customers are doing with their competitors. And we do. Seeing all of that transaction data, analyzing that, we can understand brand share of wallet in any given category. We can help them understand, hey, that customer that you believe to be perhaps in your most loyal, that's most loyal relative to the rest of your customer base. That customer might actually still be spending 50% of their dollar in the category with somebody else. We can help them understand that opportunity. Really importantly, we can help them take action on it by reaching those customers and helping influence their behavior with our offers based ad formats. And importantly as well, I think the real unlock there is that we're able to do it at scale. And I kind of want to hit myself in the leg every time I say at scale, because I don't like to hear it either. But it truly is the difference between efficiency and real effectiveness in my mind. It's great to be able to drive a return on a small number of customers. Because of our size, because of the breadth of the relationships that we have with the US's biggest banks, and a great set of regional, local, and other banks, hundreds upon hundreds, that reach that we have gives us the opportunity to help a marketer make real business impact, really, make a positive impact on the bottom line. And that's the unlock to that, being able to influence consumer behavior, but being able to do it at a magnitude that matters.
So keeping on that topic that we were just talking about with scale, do you think that it's data or is it data science? This is a cardinal question within any CPG organization. So how do you help drive scale and adoption?
Yeah, I'll give the cardinal answer, or the one that you've probably heard many times is, of course, it's both, right? It's the ability to have access to that type of information. But then really the unlock is the insight that you're able to garner from it. And the real unlock is then, what do you do with that insight? Sometimes there is value in an insight. It tells you something you don't know. So you can say, I have an opportunity there. I have headroom. The real value, I think, comes in finishing the thought. Okay, what am I going to do about it? What can I do about it? did what I did my actions then subsequently have an impact? And so that's where I think the data plus data science piece really comes together. Both together, stronger. It's a real 1 + 1 = 3 type scenario for me.
Got it. I want to remind our audience that we are speaking to Ross McNab, North American President of Advertising at Cardlytics today. Thank you for joining us again on the show. So let's now jump into your forte, which is the advertising platform. Can you take us through the details of what kind of solutions and tools it actually offers for brands?
Sure. So maybe helpful to bring it to life, just talking about, first of all, the environment in which our platform reaches customers. And so those of you, again, that bank with B of A, with Chase, with Wells Fargo, and numerous others in the US, if you see those offers, and I hope some of you, many of you have used those offers to your benefit, which is actually, just as an aside, like, one of the coolest things that being part of Cardlytics is, we get to do something we can really be proud of because of the value that we do actually add to consumers in the end. It's great to be part of digital advertising in a growth industry and help brands and help banks with their consumer loyalty. But to be able to actually do it and add value back to customers is for me one of the coolest aspects of our business. Not many other businesses, there aren't too many other businesses in digital advertising that can hold their hand up and say they're a positive force for good all around. But back to the environment. So where do we reach it? Those offers. That's our ad format, if you will. That's our inventory. That's our ad products right there. Important, of course, for marketers. One of the benefits of that type of environment is that bots don't bank. We know that every person we reach is human. We know that a brand can operate with the absolute confidence that their brand isn't going to appear against any nefarious content or less than stellar other advertisers or brands that they can know for a fact that they're going to be safe in the environments that we present them. So if environment is kind of one part of the equation of the platform, the second really is that purchase intelligence asset that everything's derived from. That is where, on access to $3 billion in transaction spend, hundreds of millions, billions of transaction level pieces of data that we're able to analyze that help us understand consumer behaviors. And then, the final piece of that platform or channel is the ability to really then prove the result. And that is done with our own test versus control methodology. We have a stellar team of analysts who work all day, every day on continuing to improve the performance of our channel, but also prove and give marketers confidence that the results that they see are real. Because I talked about our superpower being able to influence consumer behavior. Frankly, sometimes it can be a bit of a weakness. There's some our kryptonite is perhaps that because there aren't many like us in the field, we don't always look or sound like partners that marketers are used to working with. Our measurement can sometimes seem perhaps so robust that it really needs more stood up. So in an effort to help there, we certainly bring independent third parties to the table. Nielsen is in play and verifies a large number of the campaigns, a large number of the test versus control results that we present to our marketers. And then some of our most sophisticated marketers, they seek more of the information themselves to validate it against their own CRM files. So, tools like being able to provide them the last 4 digits of the cards used in a transaction helps them validate for themselves, and they get to grade their own homework in that way, which I think is a pretty powerful thing. We want the analytics teams at marketers, who are becoming an increasingly important part of marketing teams, to have the power to stand up and say, yeah, we verify this, we believe in this. And we find that is the best type of relationship that we have when we also have the marketing analytics teams bought into.
Awesome. So Ross, e-commerce and digital selling is another area that has now become pretty permanent. How do you think this positions with the traditional way of revenue measurement across CPG manufacturers? And what are your thoughts around this space? What do you offer at Cardlytics?
Yeah, grocery and CPG as well. If we talk about those in a related manner, certainly a growth area for us. Um, and this really ties into a significant acquisition that we made earlier this year, a company by the name of Bridge. That's BRIDG. Um, the power they have there is, well, but a blind spot perhaps we had in our data before, our ability to help CPG marketers and grocers by extension, was we have an incredible breadth of data on the purchase. What we didn't have really was, frankly, depth. The missing piece, and you might have heard it in my answer before, the missing piece, if we know where and we know when and we know how much, what I didn't say was we knew what, right? And that's incredibly important for grocers and for CPG marketers, because we know shopper marketing funding, the burgeoning world of retail media, and so on. It's incredibly important to be able to understand what was purchased so that we can then target and understand consumer behavior and purchase behavior at a product or SKU level, so that we can then target and reach those people on behalf of the right CPG or grocer marketers, and then that we can then prove performance. We can prove that that category or that product or SKU was actually purchased. And so the acquisition of Bridge, this is an area they specialize in. They see the what through their relationships with some leading CPG and retailers and CPG retailers and grocers. That they see, basically, think about it this way: they see the receipt in a way, right? They get to understand exactly what was purchased. And so when you add that to the data that we're able to bring to the table already, you get this quite amazing, like, data T kind of idea, right? Where you've got the breadth and then the depth when you need it. And so our hope is to be able to, create a real 1 + 1 = 3 there with our joint Cardlytics and Bridge solution to help CPG marketers, and by extension grocers too, really step into that opportunity to reach people and influence purchasing. Maybe it's at a category level, or even all the way down to product.
First of all, congratulations on the acquisition of Bridge. And it sounds like that acquisition really gets you to a full 360, completes the picture of being able to see the what in the transaction, the transactional data basically of the consumer, which is really good. I want to go back to a statement you made earlier, effectiveness versus efficiency. While both are important, doing effectiveness of scale triumphs everything else. So the big question I have for you, Ross, is when it comes to a partnership with Cardlytics, what can your clients expect back from you in terms of campaign measurement, reporting, analytics, things of that nature that's different from others, maybe unique or more profound? And I personally would tell you digital campaigns are by default easier to measure, but everybody doesn't understand it. And because now you have Bridge in the mix, does that mean there's some in-store component here that ties in perfectly?
Yeah, thanks for the opportunity to revisit that question by diving in a little deeper here. I'd kind of separate my answer two kind of angles on that answer. The first is, our focus and our differentiator is on incrementality. So again, when we influence consumer behavior, another way to say that is we can create actions that otherwise wouldn't have happened. We can help marketers capture value that only we can see and only we can help them see. And then importantly, we prove it, right? Again, through that test versus control methodology, we see the purchases, which is a killer piece of it, right? This isn't inferred. This isn't probabilistic. This is observed. We understand what people bought and what people didn't. And that is incredibly powerful to be able to show to a marketer we generated incremental, not just return. For many marketers, that is great. For other marketers, incremental return is the name of the game, is the holy grail. And our ability to drive incremental return is a really important piece. The second piece of the answer there is then, the ability to do it on a true omni-channel basis. And I don't mean omni-channel from a media channel perspective. I mean omni-channel from a purchase perspective, from e-commerce and bricks and mortar. We see all of it, not just any one channel. And so that's great, right? Because e-commerce growing in the last, what was that stat a couple of months ago at the height of the pandemic? E-commerce had grown more than in the last 10 months, more than it had in the last 10 years. Fabulous, right? We're here to help marketers step into that opportunity. Still, though, for most brands, that means that 90% at most of their purchasing is happening via e-commerce. Of course, it varies greatly. D2C brands, e-commerce brands, it's much, much higher. Point being, though, doesn't matter. We can help a marketer either way. 90% of the transactions that are still happening in store, bricks and mortar, we're there to help influence those too and help the marketer really understand what is going on and help them do something about it.
Awesome. Well, this is my favorite question. What is next for Cardlytics? What does your product pipeline look like?
Yeah, listen, I think we've kind of touched on the Bridge acquisition there, and we really look forward to bringing more of that data tea to the table. I will not be involved in the naming of it. You can see how terrible I am at that. But the product answer there, the what that's been purchased, I think that's the headroom there is enormous to help marketers further. I think folks should look forward to seeing us starting to really innovate, though, in the consumer experience. It's fair to say that the ad formats that we operate, they're pretty respectful of the environments that they're in, right? We're in your banking app, and we have to be super polite and respectful of the presence we have. But we probably are leaving some opportunities on the table there from a customer experience standpoint. And another acquisition we made earlier this year was a company by the name of Dosh. The real difference there was they kind of had two things. One was they'd made a great foray into the rise of the neobanks, right? PayPal, Venmo, all that kind of thing. They kind of did what we did for those guys. So now we get to kind of talk to a whole new group of consumers and help a whole new type of bank with our core offering. But then also Dosh have an amazing consumer-facing app. And so that's something we've never had before, is our own voice to the customer. Really importantly, it helps us be an amazing innovation ground, right? It helps us see some different data points as well. But really, for me, the most exciting thing is it's an innovation bed for us where we can try different offer formats, different ad types, different constructs, different whole targeting approaches. And I think that kind of playground, if you will, where we can then test, learn there, drive great value for the Dosh consumer base, and then bring that to the 160 million customers we reach every month through the big traditional bank partners is a pretty cool opportunity for us.
How exciting. We go from 42 Wallaby Way, Sydney, Australia, and Finding Nemo to 160 million consumer touched, to the 360 of surround sound of purchasing data acquired on the consumer for the whopping scale of 160 million folks. That's like, isn't that like the entire household population of the US? I would think that's actually trackable. And then thank you also for kind of outlining what to expect in measurement, because I think in your words, Ross, both effectiveness and efficiency are important, but if you can get effectiveness at scale, that can be the game changer alone. Melissa, any thoughts?
As I unmute, sounds super exciting. More data is always great to see, and sounds like you have a really exciting product.
Holy grail of CPG today and retail in the intersection. If you can acquire the data and you can study it and you can get actionable insights at that scale, holy smokes, the entire household population, that is mega huge if they or as my friend Peter Bond would have said, bigly. So I want to remind our audience that all of our content can be found on cpgguys.com. If you're not following us already, all you have to do is go to linkedin.com, the search bar, type CPG Guys, hit the blue plus follow button, and you can be part of this growing family of listeners that influences change in the CPG industry and the transformation towards bigger and greater things. Also, we would love for you to give us feedback and tell us who you'd like on the show. The easiest way to do that, go to ratethispodcast.com/CPG Guys, leave us a rating and a review, and you can tell us what you think of the show. Ross, thank you for joining us on the podcast. I think you're the first one that has ever walked into our show and talked of touching the entire U.S. household population. And for that, while I'm overwhelmed, I know the power of that in the day job that I do and the jobs I've had in the CPG industry in a past life. Thank you for joining us on the show today, Ross.
My pleasure. I promise we'll use the opportunity wisely.
I hope you do, and I know you already are. Also, a reminder that Cardlytics will be back for part 2 of this 2-part series, and that part will be released on November 13th. Melisssa, a pleasure having you join me as a co-host, and in addition to being one of our Fresh 4 guests, you're now part of the CPG Guys. Welcome. Thank you.
Thanks for having me today.
For all our listeners, we will catch you soon on another episode of the CPG Guys. Thank you.